Howdy, I'm Jeff Green, one of the admission counselors at the Texas A&M School of Law Admissions Office, coming again to you with one of our videos with one of our community members. Like we've promised all of the students out there, we're going to continue pushing these out to you. Today I have Dean Bobby Ahdieh with me so that he can talk a little bit about his perspective of what's going on. He meets with a lot of students, has been doing this for many years on the, specifically right now, the timeline on the decision-making process for a lot of you. So wanted to hear from him. So thank you for being here today, Dean Ahdieh. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the multitude of challenges of picking a law school. That's the season that we're in right now. Most students have about a week to 2 weeks, some of them less, for deadlines approaching on paying deposits. And obviously COVID-19 has created some challenges with that. So let's start there. What would you say to a student that maybe can't visit a school or couldn't visit a school? You know, how this season has made this more challenging. How would you advise that student right now?
Great. First of all, let me I would say, thanks, Jeff, for taking a few minutes to do this. It's a real pleasure to be part of this dialogue and to provide whatever support we can to students in trying to make these important decisions. As I tell folks, we are obviously super excited. I'm super excited about students joining us here at Texas A&M Law School. But even more important than that, I'm excited about them making the best choice for them. So we want to do everything we can to make sure that students have all the information they need to be able to do that. Obviously, one piece of information is the opportunity to come and visit and see a school. And I don't want to underplay at all the value of that. But what I tell folks is, and what I've been telling folks the last few weeks, and frankly for years, I've been telling students who, for whatever one reason or another, were not able to come visit, that at the end of the day, a visit is not about the physical facilities, right? Any given building can be filled with good stuff or bad stuff, and you'll get a good or a bad education, not based on the walls and the windows and the seats in the classroom, but rather because of what fills the building. All of that we at Texas A&M are trying to make as available as we can. My, as I say, proverbial door is open for students who would like to speak to me by Zoom, by phone. Otherwise, the smoke signal is available to talk about the law school. But for students, depending on their interests, what they think they might want to study, we can connect you with our career office, connect you with our faculty, connect you with our students, multiple students, multiple faculty, all because what we want to do is we want to provide you that incredibly rich information. If you have that opportunity and you seize upon it, what I would tell you is you're 99% of the way to the information you need, right? Because at the end of the day, again, it's not the physical building, it's what you fill it with. And if you have those conversations and you ask the right questions, and I would say ask the hard questions, you'll have a sense of the community. You'll have a sense of whether this is a place that I will get the education that I need to get and want to get, that I'll be supported in the way that I want to be, and that I'll be part of a community that not only for 3 years, but throughout the rest of my career will benefit me and assist me. So again, it's challenging not to be able to visit, but I will tell you that at least at Texas A&M, we want to make ourselves as available as possible so you can get the information you need.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been really encouraging students, even I'll tell them, hey, we can call on Zoom. They're like, no, phone call's fine. I was like, no, like I would like to see you. Like, and so that's still possible. We're blessed with a number of virtual opportunities now that we might not have had with all students.
I haven't bought Zoom stock, so whatever. So nobody can accuse me of bias. But I would say again, yes, I encourage everybody. If you can do it that way, FaceTime, whatever. Yeah. I recommend it because again, there's an opportunity to connect in a different way than you get over the phone. That said, if students want to talk by phone, obviously I'm available. Faculty's available, staff, students, all stand ready to sort of give you the information again that you need.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously one of the big things that comes up with the decision broadly, not just specific to this season, is cost. And I like to use the cost word specifically, not just the price word,
Sure.
And how to look at the range there. So I feel like, obviously our office works hard to make sure students aren't just comparing scholarship dollar amount to scholarship dollar amount. But there's just so much to consider in the realm of the cost of a law school. So how do you think about that? How do you put that into context for students?
Great. Let me say a few things. Let me start with the point you were highlighting, Jeff, about the issue of the multiple variables that go into it. So I usually talk about it can get even more complicated. But I think you could reduce it down to there are three key variables. Number one is the base tuition of a given law school. Number two is what's the scholarship that you're receiving from the law school, and number three is cost of living in the given location. Obviously, depending on what those numbers are for any given school, the scholarship amount may be more or less significant depending on those other numbers. So it's important to look. You start with the best information you can get about the base tuition. You then apply your scholarship to that amount for that school. And then cost of living can get more complicated, including because schools are not always consistent in terms of how they do the math on that. So what I actually tell students usually is the biggest component and the most varying component from city to city in cost of living is housing. So food and electricity and cable and even your books. Really, the reality is that the price is not going to vary significantly across schools. So my advice is usually, look, there's all these calculators online that can tell you cost of living in any given city and tell you this city is 10% more, 30% more, 80% more, whatever else it is. So that's usually what I recommend to students is take your base tuition as best you can figure it out, subtract off the scholarship you're getting, and then for cost of living, look at the variance in housing costs across the places rather than get the numbers from the given school because, again, different schools do that math differently and so it may not be represented. All right, so then you do your math on that. Now, there's going to be differences, or maybe not, but usually there are differences. So how do you weigh that? So what I would say is that I wouldn't think of it narrowly as I want the lowest number. I want the cheapest education that I can get. Nobody makes big financial decisions that way. When some of you will have bought a house already. For those of you who haven't bought a house, I can tell you that nobody goes out to look for a house and says to a real estate agent, "I would like the cheapest house on the market." Right? Why? Because there's other factors that go into the house you want: the location, proximity to your work, how safe the neighborhood is, what the house looks like, how much space it has, and I can go on and on. So you got to weigh those factors, not to the exclusion of the cost. Obviously, the cost has to be part of it. But again, you got to weigh those other factors as well in terms of a given law school, because of geography, might be more likely to get you a job in the place that you want, right? Because it's closer to it. It's in the same city or closer to it in the same state even. A given law school might be a better fit because of particular programs that are of interest to you. It might be a better fit, obviously this is A&M, but because of the trajectory of the law school, whatever. So you want to weigh those factors just as you would with a house. And then the last piece that follows from that is just as with a house, the model shouldn't be, I want a house, but I don't want a mortgage. Most people buy a house, get a mortgage. And the reason you do it is because it's an investment, right? When you buy a house, your education is an even more valuable investment than any house you will likely ever purchase in your life. So I would apply that same model there. It's not, again, disregard cost. Instead, it's weigh cost along with those other factors in deciding what's the right fit for you. Now, last piece I'll say is, one way to think about the cost is the importance of the difference in debt you will undertake from school A to school B predominantly is a factor in terms of how it will impact your job choices. So to the extent to which you know that you are confident you'll be able to get into a job that pays X hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, okay, then differences in debt may matter less. To the extent to which you may want to go into an area of practice that is potentially less lucrative, right? Or you're not sure that you're going to have be in the position to end up in that particular job category. In that circumstance, then the difference in cost potentially is more significant. So that's how I would think about the cost piece.
Yeah, and I, as you were talking, I was reminded that we've recently partnered with, as well as a lot of law schools have, Access Lex, that actually has a calculator out there that students can use to get an idea of what is your minimum payment going to be on your loan. So if you really want to look practically at this, I think sometimes just the loan dollar amount can be scary to a student, can give some anxiety. So instead of just like letting the sum, gnaw at you, like actually look at what that minimum payment looks like. Sometimes that's helpful. And then also you can compare that with the different reports that Career Services Office put out on the average salaries. So you can actually weigh some numbers. I think can be helpful for students. So moving from cost to geography, obviously there's a number of other considerations, but cost and geography are kind of the the leading two for most students. Maybe talk broadly about how you would encourage a student to weigh geography, and then maybe also specifically how A&M comes into that comparison.
Sure. The you might be able to tell from my accent that I'm a Texan or not, as the case may be. I've been dean here at the law school for a year and a half. A little more than a year and a half now. I'm a born and bred New Yorker or Northeasterner. But then spent most of the last 20 years at Emory University at their law school, and then came to Texas. So I will say I'm a relatively newcomer to Texas myself still. But I would say it's an incredibly exciting place to be, exciting place to study law, and I think exciting place to practice law. A couple of reasons I think that's true. One is that at the intersection of the politics of the state, the physical geography of the state, where we sit in the country, literally kind of in the middle, our long international border, the diversity of the state, frankly, the incredibly rapid, I should say, economic growth of the city. So in our area, Dallas-Fort Worth, the statistic I heard not long ago is that 250 people a day move into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So huge population growth, huge flow of corporate headquarters from all over the country, California, New York, elsewhere, into Texas, and consequently huge business opportunity and growth. And because of that, huge growth in legal practice and law firms and other employers, increasing the opportunities here. So you put all that together, it really makes for an incredibly both interesting and attractive place to learn the law, to study law, just the opportunities that are out there to get exposed to things, to connect with things, and get a sense of things is substantial. But frankly, upon graduation, for those who ultimately decide to remain in Texas, the opportunities are incredible. I mean, just the growth in the business community and the growth in business opportunity, and consequently the growth in legal opportunities for legal practice are maybe better than anywhere in the country, maybe better than anywhere in the world. So that's really one piece of it, is just that the opportunities in Texas, both while in school, are tremendous, and maybe bar none, are growing at least in a way that sort of is probably not replicated anywhere else in the country. So that's one point I'd make. Second point I'd make is just, again, it falls a little bit from that, but it's an interesting place. If you think about law as fundamentally engaging with deep-seated policy issues and questions that we as a country and really as a global community are asking, in some sense, there's no better place to engage those questions than Texas. What I've taken to saying to folks recently is, there is no problem that if we can solve it in Texas, we can't solve it in the rest of the country. And conversely, there is no problem that if we don't solve it in Texas, it can be solved in the rest of the country. Be that immigration or energy policy or healthcare or whatever else it is, these are issues that are incredibly complex, challenging, and drawing the attention of lawyers and creating opportunities for law students and new graduates in an incredible way here. The last thing I'll say, to a prospective student, I think about this is that, sometimes it can be overstated the degree to which, geography is destiny when it comes to where you go to school, where you go to law school, and where you work. So it's not that you can't go from law school in city or state X to work in city or state Y. It's just harder, right? It is the case that geography is your friend in that regard. So if you go to school in X, the X city or X region, the opportunity set while you're in school to network, to get to know people, this kind of thing, the familiarity with your institution after you graduate, among legal employers is going to be greater. So there's more opportunity in your city, in your region, and in your state than there is elsewhere. So again, I don't want to overstate that. It's not that if somebody wants to work in Texas, they can't go to law school someplace else, or for that matter, if somebody wants to work in California or New York or Chicago or Alabama or Mississippi or North Dakota, they can't go to law school at A&M. They can't go to law school in Texas. But I will say there's an advantage in that. So to the extent to which the opportunity to work in Texas is either important to you or critical to you, I would say that then thinking about the law schools in Texas, and if it's geographic region, if you want to be in North Texas, particularly being at one of the law schools in North Texas, makes a great deal sense. And then maybe I'll add one other piece to that that's not really geography per se, but it relates to geography. So one of the huge advantages we have at Texas A&M Law School is what we call the Aggie Network. For those who know it, you know what it is. For those who don't know it, it really is this incredible commitment of the graduates of Texas A&M University, not just the law school, but the entire university, to help advance the best interests of our students, of other former students, of other graduates of the university, whatever unit. That's a huge advantage. So for students who want to be in Texas, it's a massive advantage. For students who want to be elsewhere, it turns out it's a big advantage too, right? Because the way in Colorado and Arizona and New York and other places we help students on the job front is we pick up the phone and we call some of those folks that were part of the Aggie Network, graduates, former students of the university, and you would be amazed. I have never ceased to be amazed at their willingness to step up in those circumstances. So that's a little bit related to geography as well.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I was at another large regional school out of state a month or so ago, and I was trying to explain that to a student. I was trying to explain that, yes, we graduated 6 or 7 classes at A&M of Aggie lawyers, but there are thousands of Aggie lawyers out there. And she was disagreeing with me. She said, well, my dad's an Aggie. I don't remember what his class was. He went to law school somewhere else, but he's not an Aggie lawyer. And I said, well, maybe or maybe not, but I would say he is. And at the end of the conversation, she goes, oh, wait, he spoke at the school last week, like at A&M Law School. And I was like, exactly. Like, he's an Aggie lawyer. Like, they all come back at some point, right? That connection continues all the time.
So actually, students do ask me that too. They say, well, they ask about whether the fact that we are a recent addition 7 years ago now to A&M, whether that is a limiting factor. And I tell people the story of the graduate A&M undergrad, went to law school someplace else here in Texas, the good school, but is very proud whenever anybody comes, not just me, anyone who comes in his office, he points to his diploma from the other law school and points out to the fact that it's framed in maroon, because he's an Aggie lawyer. But the other thing I say about that is, so I'm a graduate, not for law school, but for undergrad of Princeton University. And I regularly tell people, I said, before I came to A&M, I used to describe Princeton as the university that had the most loyal, committed, engaged, involved alumni, former students of any university in the country that would do anything for their classmates, this kind of thing. And now that I've gotten to know Texas A&M, I describe Princeton as a community college in New Jersey. Yeah. So no, it really is quite something.
Yeah. So, you shared that you joined a couple of summers ago, approaching 2 years now. I just kind of wanted to ask you briefly to share with any students that this might be helpful from your perspective of why did you choose A&M?
Sure. So lots of things I would say. Again, as I said earlier, what makes a place is not the physical plant of it; it's what's in it. So I would say, what brought me here was the faculty and the staff and the students and the whole community that we were part of. But let me sort of I'll talk about community, but talk about a few different things that sort of went into it. So one was geography. We already talked some about geography. In terms of what I think are the advantages of Texas and maybe even of North Texas in particular, in terms of business growth, legal practice growth, and the opportunities that go with that. But I would say that was one thing. Just as I looked ahead, for me, the trajectory of the law school was likely to be sound and strong, given that it was here in this place, in this state, that was seeing and would continue to see such tremendous growth and opportunity in the years and even decades, frankly, ahead. So geography was one thing that I think made coming to A&M, leaving Emory University where I was and coming to Texas A&M attractive for me. The second one was the community. I mentioned community now a number of times. And I'd say the community in a few different ways. So the first one was the internal community. So I just, came away from my engagements with the law school before coming, incredibly impressed by a few different things. Number one was the degree to which the faculty was deeply committed to both the project of advancing human knowledge by educating the next generation of lawyers and leaders, but also committed to the project of advancing human knowledge by way of impacting policy, by way of legislative reform, regulatory reform, and by way of their scholarship. Some law schools sort of, say, we're really great at teaching, and yeah, we do some scholarship too, or vice versa. I actually think that the optimal school for a student is the school that is deeply committed to both. And that's not always easy. There's conflicts of time and whatever, but I would say that this community, the faculty, the administration, the staff, really support that very strongly. So that was one aspect of the community that impressed me. The other was the students. The students really, they really thought of themselves as in this together. The amount that I hear about students are competing with another, trying to undercut one another and the like, is pretty limited. I don't almost ever see that. It also is the case that sort of, the values of the law school, the values of the university really inform the way in which students talk to one another and engage one another. I've been very impressed by, and I was even before I got here, students would disagree, but they would never be disagreeable, right? They would engage one another in this incredibly civil way. So the internal community to the law school impressed me, number one. Number two aspect of community was the university community. I don't know that I know a university that is more, has more of a passion for excellence and more of a passion for pursuing excellence and for bettering itself. I like to describe it as I say, like, I don't know that I've known a university in the course of my career that more consistently asks the question, what can we do tomorrow to make ourselves better than we were today? And the next day to ask the question, now what can we do tomorrow to make ourselves yet better than we are today? So that culture of the university makes for a kind of a community that I think it's great to be part of, whether it's a dean or a faculty member or a staff member or a student. And the last aspect of community comes back to geography. It's that I do just think that sort of Texas right now, for a number of different reasons, as I shared earlier, is a great place to be. It's a diverse and engaged community. It's changing rapidly, and we're figuring out what that looks like. And just it makes for a great community in many ways, and ways that, frankly, I will say, as someone who is not a Texan, have been incredibly. I've appreciated a great deal. I've been very impressed, I will say it that way, by the broader Texas community that I consider myself to have joined in coming to Fort Worth, coming to law school, and coming to the university. The last thing I'd say is the trajectory. So first was geography, second was the community. And the last thing I'd say is the trajectory of the law school. So look, there is, I think, as far as we can crunch numbers and look at these things, there's no law school in the country that is seeing the trajectory that we're seeing in terms of a rising slope. Whether you look at ranking or you look at reputation or you look at student quality or employment, the law school is really in the midst of this incredible trajectory. In terms of its progress and its increasing reputation and the success of its students and bar passage and so on and so forth. Now that's not everything. I mean, it's not that the trajectory is all that matters, but it matters, right? It makes for a place where every student is finding more opportunities upon graduation than were available when they arrived. Where every student is able to pursue what it is that they want to do because of the fact that those opportunities are growing at such a rapid rate. So that trajectory creates kind of a dynamic of enthusiastic engagement and excitement to be here that I think makes it a fun place to be and a great place to be. So those are the three things: geography, community, and then trajectory.
Yeah. So we'll kind of end on a follow-up from that. I think a lot of students have seen, various numbers and news out there over the last couple of years. I know a question I get from a lot of students at the end of the day is like, well, then, that's all good, but is that it? Or what's next? Kind of this, what is the trajectory going towards? So I know that's not a question specifically, but how would you respond to that student that sits down in our office or, sits on the other side of a Zoom, cam and asks like, well, what is next for A&M? What is better? You talked about a university that has its sights set on bettering itself every day. And that's what I love about our job in our office is, we've got to enroll the best class in the Institute of Law School every year. And we celebrate it for a day. And then it's like, okay, well, that's not acceptable anymore. And that's challenging in a really exciting way. So what do you see being next for A&M Law?
Well, first of all, I'm glad to hear that you celebrated for a day. I didn't know that you guys got a day off to celebrate it. I thought it was just immediately.
No, it's that one lunch where we just announced it.
But good. All right, that's good. So there's a meal. Day seemed a little bit luxurious. All right. So look. So here's what I'd say. Obviously, we know the future is bright, but we also want to sort of be open to, as new members of our community come in, the new blood of our students, obviously, but faculty and staff and the like. We really are a dynamic and energetic place and creative place, frankly, an entrepreneurial place. So I don't want to say the future holds X. But a few things that I would say. One is that, as you mentioned, a critical piece of where we are going is we want to build the strongest student community that we can. And that means excellence in terms of their academic credentials of our incoming students. It also goes to the diversity of our students. That's a vital and critical thing we're focused on, is ensuring that we have a diverse class that is really representative of the broad community of which we're part, and that we see ourselves as part of. We are likewise expanding the range of opportunities, as I described earlier. So when we think about the future, we really think that there's no door that is not at least somewhat open to our students. We want every door to be wide open. And so we are working closely with every kind of employer and every individual employer to ensure that that's happening. We also want to think about where are the areas in which we can build a distinctive brand, where we can construct sort of a distinctive strength in energy and oil and gas law, in intellectual property law and technology and innovation, in immigration law, in healthcare law, in cybersecurity law. Are there key areas where our faculty, our programs, and our students can really be on the cutting edge of shaping where the world is going in those particular areas? And the last thing I'd say is that we are becoming more and more national and more global in our reach in terms of where our students are coming from and where they're going after graduation. So those are some of the key features, I would say. But again, I would say, for those who come and join us, come and be part of the conversation, and let's figure out where we can go together.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time today. I appreciate you giving us some insight into kind of your experience working with students. I say this at the end of, I think, almost every video we do. To the students out there watching this, we are available. Dean Ahdieh is available. We're not saying that lightly. Please let us know how we can help you. Please let us know what questions you have, or maybe just an area that you, maybe you don't have specific questions, but you don't know the information you need yet. So just, I would say, reach out. Even if you don't know what you need to talk about, reach out, kind of start that conversation with us, and we'll help you along on figuring out even what some of those questions are that we need to talk through. And we're all available for that. So please reach out to us in a multitude of ways. You can even comment on this video, text us, email us, all of these things. So thank you for your time, students, for joining us today. And once again, thank you for your time today, Dean Ahdieh.
We hope to see you in the fall.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you.